Hi everyone. I wanted to start doing more videos on my YouTube channel where I kind of show you a little more in depth about how I like to use a lot of my stencil sets. And one of the ones that I love, probably more than most, but I use it frequently, is my Moonlight journaling set. The Moonlight journaling set comes with these moon faces, these little journaling lines, and these vases and flowers. It's a really fun set. It's one of my most popular ones, and as you can see, if you're familiar with my Instagram or my journal flip throughs, I really like to use these faces all the time. They're just super fun to play with. I also did a little free class for my subscribers where I was using a lot of these faces for these little like moon books that open up. Super, super fun. So anyway, I use them all the time and I share a lot of that on the Instagram, but I'm going to be coming on here more often. So one of the other parts that I just started playing with of this set is this vase and floral set. I hadn't gotten a chance to use it all that much, and every once in a while I'll come back to things. And recently I've been working on the 100-day project, which I'm absolutely in love with. And my project is just me using my stencils and pretty much nothing else. There may be some, natural fibers and things like that. But what I've been doing is working in fours and kind of creating one concept and doing it several times. So one of the ones I was like, you know what, I want to play with my vases. I have tons of florals that I've done over the years, and I thought it would be fun to create these vase clusters. So I wanted to and then I remembered thinking, oh, I should do a little video about that, because I bet a bunch of people have this moon journaling stencil, and it's always handy to get ideas for stuff that you already have, or something that you've wondered about. So I made a bunch of these little vase clusters today, which I have to say, it just makes me so happy. And I just used, watercolors. I used the vases from the stencil, and then, I have done so many florals over the years, so I had tons of stencils to play around with in terms of all the flowers. So they're from, tons of sets that I've done over the years. But how cute are these? And I just thought, wow, this is the time of year to share this video with everyone, because it's spring and everybody's probably thinking of, at least it's spring in the US. I mean, I know it's not spring in Australia. But, we're getting into the time of year where it's getting warmer out, and who doesn't love more vases and flowers and things like that? So I thought I'd do a quick video on how I put these together. They're really easy to make. And I mean, I think it's pretty self-explanatory, right? You just make some blooms and you do the vase. But I wanted to share with you how I do the vases, because I do often get asked about this, and it's always the how do you use watercolors with stencils thing. And I don't think I can do enough videos, because people ask me constantly, even though if you scroll through my YouTube channel, you will see there's a lot of videos in there. So the first technique that I'm going to share with you is using watercolors. And I'm just mixing them up here in my little palette. When you play with watercolors and stencils, you just have to practice. So number one, don't slide your stencil around like I just did. And you know, you'll start to get a feel for how much water to use, how much to put through the stencil. The other thing that you kind of need to do is let go of your expectations, because it's never going to come out perfect. It might, and it does from time to time, but you're going to get, on occasion, or more frequently than not, some of this kind of watery look, which I like. So the key is to let this dry, and then you can come back in and pull the watercolor out with the brush, and you can doodle on it. You can leave it like it is because it looks a little abstract, which I like. But the key is that if you go to do it again right away, you need to pat it dry with this, like any kind of paper towel. There can't be any wetness on the stencil. The wetness, especially if it's underneath, like on the underside of the stencil, any wetness around these edges, it's gonna pull the water under the stencil. So that's why it's a really good idea to dry your stencil completely before doing another one. And because there's two, you know, a good idea might be doing the next one in line so the other one has even more time to dry. I put this on really thick, so probably won't bleed. And then when you lift it up, I usually just press down on one corner and lift up with another. So, you know, even someone as seasoned as me, I still will get some blobs and stuff in the corners. Sometimes it really will come out perfect. It just depends. There's a learning curve. You just have to practice and be open to imperfection a little bit. And what I'll do often is I'll come back in, like as soon as I pick it up. If I don't want those, these are called bridges and stencils, I'll pull the bridges out. So even though it looks a little blobby, that's okay, because once it dries, this one is drying. It's pretty dry. So I'm just going to put another color in the center. So I'm not going to go rubbing right along the edge right now. So I'll put it in the center. I'm going to go around some of the edges. And the key with watercolors is to have like an even distribution of wetness. So once I get all the color in the white space, I'll just get my brush wet and just kind of go over it. I'm not going to go over the edges too much, but if it bleeds in a little bit, it looks cool. I mean, it kind of gives it more of a batik-y kind of look, like a softer look. Okay, and so I'm going to do the same thing here. It took me a while to get used to watercolors, but I have to say they're really fun. In some ways, they're kind of unforgiving, but then other ways they're really forgiving because you can reactivate them, and you can blend them and add colors and you just get cool effects. So they're really fun to play with. You just have to be patient and practice. So I like going over the edges a little bit because, again, it'll kind of look a little bit less formal and a little bit more, however you might describe it. It just looks cool. I just like it. So, and you know, again, I'm not like a super professional watercolor artist. So even if I don't love how it looks when it's done, that's okay because I like to work with doodling. So it's not just like a plain watercolor. Sometimes it is, but most of the time I'm going to come in and add other details, and they're going to distract myself. Like This one wasn't perfect, but that's not what you see when it's all complete, you know? You've got all these new details and it just looks like a mixed media watercolor. So you just gotta kind of go easy on yourself. Don't let the expectation get to you. Now, because this one went on so bold, I'm not even gonna mess around with other colors. And I'm just going to play with the watercolor that's already there. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of go around the edges first. I'm going to rinse off my brush and then just kind of rub away any watermarks that I might have. And I'm kind of avoiding those inner circles because I know they have so much watercolor in them that I could reactivate them and I could kind of lose that design a lot. So I'm just going to go around them. It's okay if I touch the edges because that's cool. So again, this is another way to get like a softer kind of batik-y look. But I'm not going to rub my brush over these circles if I can help it because it's just going to create a real disaster because this is just full of watercolor. And that is another way to do it. And again, I'll let that dry. I'll come in with some colored pink pens and jazz them up. But another way, if this is just too much work for you, okay, another way to get a watercolor look but kind of cheat is to just do it with acrylic paints. So what I have here, you can use any acrylic paint. I always use the Dina Wakley media paints. It's just what I've worked with pretty much for the last 10 years. So, and I have a Ranger mini blending tool, or you could use a cosmetic foam, you know, those triangular cosmetic foams. I like using these. Again, it's a Ranger product, the domed foam and the mini blending tool. And I just, I have some palette paper here and I'm just getting it all on that domed foam. I don't want a ton, but I want just enough so I can go through and rub it through my stencil. Okay. Now, this is a great way to get a more finished look. Again, don't let the stencil shift if you can help it. And then what you can do for a more watercolory look is use some watercolors and come in. So if you want a more defined line, you don't want it to look so batik-y, let's say, you can just come in because the acrylic paint isn't gonna, you know, you might want to let it dry a little bit, but because it's going on so thin, you're not going to really disturb it with the watercolors as they come in. And you can add like another color into it just for some cool effects. And you can let that dry. So that'll also give you a watercolor look, but it will work just as well as using the watercolors. Because again, you know, I'm going to come in and distract how it might look by adding all these doodles. So once I start adding all these doodles in here, you know, the initial watercolor portion kind of gets lost. And I'm kind of rushing. Usually I let it dry a lot more. It's the same thing here. So I'm going to come in and do my doodles and it comes out great. So those are two different ways to get a really nice watercolor look. You can do one impression with acrylic paint for your outline, and then you can fill the inside with watercolors and you have a more defined image, or you can play around with watercolors in general and you can get a different batik-y kind of look. Now on here are some of the differences. This is one that I did with acrylic paint. So I did acrylic paint like here, and I added some doodles with paint pens. This is one that I did with watercolors, so you see more of the blurred lines. And it's just, there's two different looks all together, right? But they still look great. Here's another acrylic one versus a watercolor one. I did just do watercolors for all the botanicals because I like that look. But again, you can also do acrylic paint for your botanicals if you want it to look more defined, and go in and add your doodles. The only thing with acrylics is that you're just going to get a more even, solid distribution and less of a watercolor look. So I'm still going for watercolor vases, but just playing around with the different ways to achieve the vase itself. So this one also was done in acrylic paint and then watercolors. So just a fun little thing to play with, and I thought I would share this video because I know a lot of people have the moon journaling set, and I'll leave a link if you don't have it. I'll leave a link so you can find it in my Etsy. And you know, what a great little cluster to have. These make such great like cards. Think Mother's Day is coming, or you know, even if you were to put this on a tag, it just, I think these are going to look great. Plus, of course, these will look great in your art journals. So I hope I give you a little inspiration today, and I'm going to keep trying to do this at least once a week, if not more often. So I'll see you back real soon with another video.